Hi and welcome. My name is Nicole with morningchores.com. Today's video I'm sharing my favorite tips on when is the best time to transition your baby chicks to their spacious chicken coop. If you missed our top 5 tips for baby chick care video, I will link that in the description box below, but I share some really good tips on how to care for baby chicks, some just things that I've learned along the way. So today's video is an extension of that. Our chicks are now teenagers basically, and they are officially in their chicken coop. So today I'm going to share my favorite tips, things to look out for as to when they're ready, because there are a lot of opinions and there's a lot of information on the internet as to when is the best time to put them in the coop. So today's video is all about that, so hopefully we can make it easier for you to navigate. All the information I will be sharing today is from this book here. This book is called The Backyard Homestead Guide to Raising Farm Animals. It has so much good information in here. It's a great reference book, and I'm constantly looking up things and making sure that I'm doing things the right way. But it covers information for chickens, turkeys, ducks, rabbits, goats, sheep, pigs, cattle, and bees. And it talks about everything from shelter to what to feed them, how to care for them as a baby as they transition into their adult life, fencing, kind of everything in between. But I love it because it's really solid information. So all the information from this video is from this book, and it will be linked in the description box below. The first sign to look for when your baby chicks are ready to transition outdoors to their coop is that they're fully feathered. Now your chicks will begin growing feathers from day 1, but they will be fully feathered between 4 to 6 weeks, and you'll definitely notice when they start getting more feathers in. But these feathers are really, really important for them to have before they're transitioned outdoors, because number one, they're not going to have artificial light, and they won't need it anymore because these feathers help insulate them, protect them from the outdoor elements and the weather, and they also are waterproof. So that's really important to have because they will be exposed to more elements out in their coop as opposed to having them indoors or in your garage, in your brooder, in a smaller cage, or whatever you were using. It is fun to watch their feathers come in because at first it's really funny. They're kind of sticking out every which way, but once they're fully feathered, their feathers should all lay in generally one direction, and you'll definitely be able to tell the difference. Tip number 2 is they need more space. Now we usually start with a smaller container such as a plastic tote, and then we'll transition them to our large dog crate that I have set up kind of as a baby chick home, and then we transition them to the coop. So we have kind of 3 stages that we use. But you'll notice that they will start to just get a little more agitated. They might start picking on each other, and it's really important that you address this as soon as you notice that, because you don't want your hens or your chickens to learn bad habits. So it's important that you give them ample space, and according to this book, it's recommended that you have 1 square foot per chick. Now I would say mine was a little smaller and it was fine. You just want to observe them and make sure that they're happy and they're healthy and they're all getting along. Another sign that they need more space is they start flying around. So you might see them, especially as their feathers start coming in, they'll kind of fly up or fly kind of around the cage. So that's another sign that they need more space. But it's also important to give them enough space because injuries can happen if they don't have enough space. And this happened to us 4 years ago. Our chicks were getting too big and I didn't have the right thing to transition them to, and one of our chicks ended up getting a broken leg. Now she was fine and she was one of our best hens. She was one of our best egg layers, and she was kind of our mama hen that kind of guarded the chicken coop. So she was a great hen, but she did have a leg that never healed correctly and she limped around. So you just want to be mindful of that and make sure that you give them ample space. Tip number 3 is the weather. It's really important that you time transitioning your chicks out to the coop with the weather. When the weather is warming up, specifically the nights, you want to make sure that the nighttime degree is above 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, you should have already acclimated them to the weather and have been weaning them off the artificial light, which I discussed in that previous video. So they should already be acclimated to the temperatures, but also timing it with warmer nights and just kind of timing it at the end of spring into summer is really ideal. Now, there was one year that I didn't get baby chicks until the beginning of June, and this was really great because I was able to wean them off the artificial light much sooner, and I was able to transition them to the coop more quickly. Now, we didn't get eggs until around November, but we had eggs all that winter. And so I would say if you don't want to depend as much on the artificial lighting, you could time it for June. Now, of course, this depends on where you live, but this worked great for where I live. So you can always do that. I know a lot of us like to get baby chicks at the beginning of spring because we're just ready for it, and that's fine too. But timing it with the weather and just keeping an eye on the nighttime temperature will really be ideal for the transition. The last sign that your baby chicks are ready to transition to the coop is that they are roosting. Now, chicks tend to begin roosting between 4 to 5 weeks, and it's important to give them a roosting bar. This is part of their instinctual habits. Chickens tend to roost at nighttime, and it's mainly a protection thing to get up off the ground. If chickens were out in the wild, they would roost up in trees as a form of protection against animals. So it kind of goes back to their instinctual nature. So it's really important that you provide this for them, and once they start doing that, this is just another tall tale sign that they're ready to head to the bigger quarters of their chicken coop. Now, if you're raising meat birds do not need a roost. They can actually get calluses on their breasts if you do provide a roost. So if you're doing the meat birds, you don't need a roost. This is particularly to egg-laying hens. Now that we've discussed the signs that your chicks are ready for the coop, you may be thinking, how do I transition them safely and effectively from their brooder or their cage down to the chicken coop? And there's a couple ways you can do this, but the best time to handle chickens is at nighttime. At nighttime, chickens are more docile. They're much easier to pick up. They don't fight you quite as much. I mean, they still will a little bit, but they're so much easier to handle. So anytime I have to check a chicken for a health issue or I have to transition them in any way, shape, or form, I always do it at nighttime. So what you can do is you can pick up your hens, and it's important that you keep your hands around their wings and hold them firmly so they don't flap around, and then you can kind of tuck them under your arm almost like a football. This is a really easy way to transition them, but just picking them up and placing them in a box or maybe an animal crate and transitioning to the coop that way is really the best. Now, what we did is we put our chicken crate that we had in the garage on top of our garden cart, and then I held it while my husband wheeled it down. And our garden cart is actually flush with the coop door, so we were able to open the cage door and butt it up against the coop door, and then we just kind of tapped on the cage and they all ran into the coop. So that was actually really easy. So whatever you have to do, just know that if you're not used to handling chickens, the only way that you're going to get good at it is by doing it. And the best time to practice is at nighttime. Now, the first 2 weeks that our chickens were in the coop, we just kept them inside the coop. We did not have them in an outdoor run or fence area, so I just kept the coop door closed. But the nice thing about our coop is it has an indoor and an outdoor space, and they had so much room to roam around and run. They loved it, and so they were fine in there for about 2 weeks. Once they were big enough to not hop through the outdoor fence, then we put the fence up and we opened them up to the outdoor run. So keep in mind of that, whatever fencing you're using, just make sure that they can't hop out. Ours is not electrified, so they could still potentially get underneath it or fly out. Of course, they haven't done that quite yet, but it's something to keep an eye on. And if you want to electrify your fence, you can. We never have, and it's really been fine. If we get a chicken out, we just corral it back in, and it all works out. So whatever you want to do, but this has been kind of the best, easiest way for us to transition our baby chicks to the chicken coop. I hope this video was helpful for you and gave you some easy, quick tips on what to look for, because it's important that we give our animals the right kind of shelter and the ample amount of space that they need to thrive and be healthy and happy animals. So I hope you enjoyed it. Definitely head over to morningchores.com. There's all kinds of information over there about chickens and other livestock, and they can answer all your livestock questions over there beyond what I've done here. So definitely head over there. The link is in the description box below. Hope you guys have a wonderful week, and we'll see you on the next video.